Hey folks, this is Kelani. We're at that point. The new expansion is just around the corner, everything is winding down. But it won't last for much longer. The Battle for Azeroth pre-patch will be here before you know it. That's going to get the engine revving again, getting us ready for our adventures throughout the new islands of Zandalar and Kulturas. We'll have to wait for the expansion proper before we can head out towards the seas, but the pre-patch will be bringing us a lot of system changes and some fun new content to get the Horde and Alliance back to fighting amongst themselves. Let's check out what's in store for the game heading into patch 8.0. First things first, when can we expect patch 8.0 to hit live servers? Well, we only have a few more resets before the patch has to go live. Pre-patches have historically been 4 to 6 weeks before the expansion launch itself. Battle for Azeroth goes live on August 14th, which means our pre-patch window is between July 3rd and July 17th. So the patch could go live today, it could go up July 10th or July 17th. They're really the only days left that this patch could be released, so we're definitely close. Today isn't really that likely, partly because of July 4th and partly because we haven't heard anything concrete at this point. July 10th and 17th are probably just as likely as each other, so we might have another week or another 2 weeks to wait. Bear in mind that quite a few things will be removed or become unobtainable when the patch goes live, so be sure to get on that. If you're unsure about what's on that list, I'll touch on it at the end. Let's have a chat about what's in the patch first. You may have noticed recently that your artifact is going a little crazy. Well, at least if you've done the quests down in Silithus anyway, that craziness is going to increase, powering your artifact up even more until the pre-patch arrives. When patch 8.0 hits live servers, your artifacts will fizzle out, kind of like a light that's being powered by a nuclear reactor. It might shine really bright for a little while, but the extra power will just burn it out eventually. The burnout of our artifacts comes in the form of losing all traits and bonuses. Literally everything will just poof. Gone. The only thing that will remain intact is your relics, which will still increase the weapon item level, but that's it. Artifacts are now just a standard weapon. It's got damage and stats, so when you replace them with a quest green in Battle for Azeroth, it won't be quite as much of a shock. So enjoy your souped up artifact weapon while you can. But don't worry, your class won't suddenly become completely useless. The class changes for Battle for Azeroth will also be going live with patch 8.0, so you'll be stripped of all the passive and active traits, but chances are your class will also have quite a few other changes. I know some classes are being turned inside out, Demonology Warlocks are changing quite a lot, Marksmanship Hunters will have a very different playstyle, and I know Discipline Priests will see the return of Mass Bubbles. Other classes haven't really changed too much. Mages come to mind for both Frost and Fire specs, so be sure to check out the changes that are coming to your class when we get official patch notes, or you can hop onto the PTR to check things out for yourself. We'll have a few more weeks of Legion content to learn the ropes of our classes before the floodgates open up and we can swarm through the new content. Bear in mind that legendaries and their effects will still work up to and including level 115, after that they'll just be like any other piece of gear. Until then, I'm looking forward to playing around with some of the new talents and effects which are sometimes inspired by some legendary effects, but more often than not they're actually just legendary effects turned into talents. For a little while we're going to be able to double up on some of these super powerful effects. Another huge change coming with patch 8.0, which is related to class changes, is the global cooldown changes. Quite a few of your abilities might have moved onto the global cooldown even if they weren't before. Utility spells, some healing spells, pretty much every offensive cooldown. Yeah, there's quite a lot of abilities which you won't be able to use quite as quickly as you can in Legion. It is quite jarring at first, but you do get used to it eventually, so if something feels a little bit off, or slow, or just clunky, it might be because of the global cooldown changes. Again, if you want to check it out for yourself before it hits live servers, the PTR is up and running. While the GCG changes won't affect everyone in the same way, something that will is the stat squish. Everything is being squished and squashed down quite significantly. We're rocking a crazy amount of damage right now. After this patch, you probably won't see many abilities hit for more than a few thousand. This won't really change anything in the long run, except for the visuals of the amount of damage being dealt. Your item level will be reduced significantly, so will the item level of all the gear that drops. Your damage and health will be brought down too, but the same thing will happen across the entire game, for every NPC and boss and pretty much anything you can think of. If this is your first squish, it might feel pretty weird at first, but it worked out really well in Warlords of Draenor, and it seems like we'll be seeing some relatively high numbers as we progress through Battle for Azeroth anyways. You'd think they'd want to at least stretch it out over a few expansions, but oh well, I guess we'll see what happens. If push comes to shove, we'll just get another squish next expansion or the expansion after. Between the stat squish, the GCD changes, class changes, and losing our artifacts, there's quite a lot to readjust and adapt to when this patch goes live, which makes me thankful for the few weeks we have before Battle for Azeroth launches for real. But that's not all of the system changes coming in the pre-patch. The PvP system is being overhauled pretty significantly. Honor level is now going to work on an account-wide basis instead of just being character-wide, so the honor you earn on all of your characters will count towards your total honor level. This allows you to show off all your cool goodies no matter what character you're playing, and allows you to level up your honor by playing any number of characters instead of having to start all over again if you decided to play something different. A lot of the rewards from prestige will stick around, but the level at which you obtain them will be changed. The honor level cap is also becoming something closer to how Overwatch levels work, so you can keep going and going to really show off how much PvP you're doing. Battlegrounds are also being separated into different queues. Huge 40-man BGs are being relabeled as Epic Battlegrounds and have their own queue, so basically Alterac Valley and Isle of Conquest will no longer be in the list of potential battlegrounds when you queue up, but you can still play them if you queue for the Epic Battlegrounds instead. Conquest points will also be making a return to allow you to earn gear in a more reliable fashion. 3 cheers for throwing RNG out of the window. Conquest can be earned from any number of PvP activities, and when you earn enough Conquest you'll be rewarded with a piece of gear. When you complete a set, you will start earning the higher tiers of gear. We will also see the introduction of War Mode, a new open world PvP toggle option which comes with some interesting bonuses. You can only toggle War Mode on and off in Orgrimmar or Stormwind, and if you decide to run around with War Mode on, every zone you play in will be a War Mode zone. Everyone in that zone has also opted into open world PvP, so if you see anyone from the opposite faction, you know what to do. You can also see just above the War Mode toggle our PvP talents have changed as well. Instead of being tied to your honor level, you now have access to all of your PvP talents automatically. You have 1 slot for your trinket choice and 3 slots for your other talents. Most of the actual talents remain the same, but with War Mode turned on you'll have access to all of these talents and abilities while you're out in the open world, so choose wisely. Because War Mode now decides whether or not you're able to PvP in the open world, all of the servers have changed their default PvP modes, so PvP realms and RP PvP realms from before will just become normal realms and RP realms respectively. If you ever want to be on a PvP realm or wanted to get off a PvP realm but didn't want to pay for the transfer, there's no need to worry anymore. War Mode decides if you're on a PvP or a PvE server, and you can toggle it on and off as often as you can visit your capital city. The only realm choices you'll have from here on out is normal or RP. Now, it's not just class changes and system changes in this pre-patch, we actually have some content to progress the story as well. We know quite a few sparks are going to be struck between the Horde and the Alliance. Right now we're settling down after defeating the Burning Legion, each faction is licking its own wounds. But this unstable peace won't last forever. Sylvanas has her eyes set on Teldrassil, and somehow, someway, it ends up in flames. How we get to that point is the story unfolding in the pre-patch. The War of the Thorns event will take you through the different steps and stages of this new conflict over in Darkshore, as the factions wrestle control over Teldrassil. You'll have to play through the content to see what happens, but you can expect quite a few story quests, as well as repeatable world quest content in Darkshore. After the Horde's attack on Teldrassil, the Alliance respond in kind against the Undercity. Gen Greymane has long sought to reclaim the lost human city of Lordaeron, if not to take it back for the Alliance, to make sure the Horde doesn't have a secure foothold so close to Gilneas. That's another story sequence which you'll have to play through for yourselves, but there's also going to be outdoor content available in Tirisfal Glade, so 2 zones worth of fun and hopefully some good storytelling yet to come. There are a few other bits and bobs coming with this patch, including the loot changes, new community system, and a few new customization options. The loot changes are fairly simple. Everything is now personal loot. I guess you could just call it loot at this point. No more master loot, no more group loot. Just loot. Everything will be assigned as if you were using personal loot, even in full guild runs of dungeons or raids. There isn't even an option to change your loot settings anymore. As for the new community system, it's basically the same guild window we had before, moved around a little bit and integrated with the new community UI. Communities are kind of like guilds, except you're not tied down to just one. They're more like a Discord server, but in-game. You can also use voice chat in any of your guild or community sections or channels, and it's pretty decent quality this time around, so it might actually be worth using. You You can have World of Warcraft communities for pug raiding, Mythic Plus, Battlegrounds, you name it, or Battle.net communities if you want to keep all of your friends in one spot without having to fill up your friends list. The customization options include the long-awaited straight-backed orcs. Just head on over to a a barbershop, and they'll get your back sorted in no time. Blood Elves will also have the option of golden eyes, just in case you're tired of the fell green theme from the last few expansions, and you'll also be able to change your skin colour at a barbershop. Should we really be calling them barbers at this point? Now, I said I'd give a brief mention of the stuff that's going away when the pre-patch hits, and remember you only have 2 weeks at the very maximum at this point, but you'll want to make sure you get any Mage Tower appearances you want before 8.0 goes live. The Mage Tower is currently up 24/7 with 0 downtime, so if you really wanted an appearance that you haven't got yet, there's no more excuses. Time to bash your head against the Mage Tower until it finally clicks and you never have to do it again. There's also the typical raid stuff like Ahead of the Curve and Cutting Edge, which won't be available anymore. First Aid is being removed, Ashran is being retired, and even Strand of the Ancients will be lost for the time being. So if you wanted any achievements from those areas of the game, you're on a strict time limit at this point. And that's it for this little survival guide for patch 8.0 and what you can expect in the weeks leading up to Battle for Azeroth. What are you most excited about? The stat squish or maybe the class changes? Leave all your thoughts in the comments section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon. If you want to hop on that train, you can find a link in the description below. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave, and if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.